Hello, friends, and welcome to Life Relationships. Our mission is to help people make their life more meaningful by making relationships more meaningful. I also would like to take a moment and invite you, and I'll probably repeat this at the end, but I want to invite you to please subscribe to our channel. We are working toward growing this and having more helpful information out there about relationships and making them more meaningful, making life more meaningful. So please subscribe, please like, share, comment. If there is a topic that is related to relationships, please put that in a comment. And or you can go to our website, liferelationships.net. You can email me, but we are always happy to take a look at different topics. Today, we're going to begin a series that is probably going to consist of 3 lessons, possibly more, but this is a series of lessons on a topic that I believe will be helpful in the area of your relationships. And I've entitled this series, Your Relationships, Past, Present, and Future. Now, if you've watched any of our other lessons or any of our other YouTube information that we've put up here, you know that the foundation of everything that we talk about is the scriptures. And so I want to share something with you in a few moments from Ephesians chapter 2. In Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7, the Apostle Paul talks about our past, present, and future relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, of course, for those of us who are followers of Christ, that is a wonderful topic for us to study. And I'll just give you a couple thoughts on that. First of all, we have a past relationship with Jesus Christ. We know that, let me quote one of my favorite people, and that's John Newton, the writer of Amazing Grace. He described our past relationship with Christ this way in the song Amazing Grace. He said, "The hour I first believed." So there was a time that we first believed on Christ. That was the past. Now for you, it might have been today. It might have been today that you believed on Christ as your Savior, but our past. Then we have a present relationship with Christ. What a blessing that is right now. He who loves you, it wants to be involved in your life. He who went to the cross and rose back to life, he wants to have a relationship with you that is active and present right now. And then we have a future relationship with Christ for tomorrow and for eternity. But not only do we have a past, present, and future relationship with Christ, we have a past, present, and relationship, or I should say past, present, and relationships with other people. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about our past relationships. And I want to read to you something that that Paul said here in Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 2, and he's referring to past relationships. He says, "Wherein in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience." Of course, that's more in reference to our past relationship with Christ, but we have relationships in our past. There's people that you know right now that maybe you've known your entire life. I have friends, people I dearly love, that they're not family, but they're like family, some of them. I've known them since I was 3, 4, 5 years old. I've got friends I met as teenagers, and we have a past relationship, we have a present relationship, and Lord willing, we're going to have a future relationship. But if we go back to our childhood and examine our relationships from our past, there's several important truths that we would conclude from examining past relationships. And here's our first thought about that. We learn our relationship behaviors from our early life role models. Now, I talk about this a lot when I'm in meetings and conferences and seminars. I'm giving seminars on relationships. We learn a lot. We learn most everything. And some of the things are wrong, and I'm going to get to that. But we learn about relationships from our early life role models. And think about this a little bit. The way that we interact with family members, including the way that we respond to people, the way we conduct ourselves in public and in private gatherings, the way we communicate with other people. We learn those things, those behaviors from our early life role models. Now, we also get our perspective of life from our early life role models, as well as our perspective of ourselves. The way you see people that are, I got ahead of myself. We get our perspective of others from our early life role models. I'm coming to ourselves in a minute, okay? But the way we see other people, the way we perceive other people, we learn that from our early life role models. The way we see people that are different than we are, including people that are different from us socially, economically, their economic status, even their race and their beliefs. Our perspective of them is learned from our early life role models. And then we get perspective of ourselves. There it is. We get perspective from ourselves from our early life role models. And can I give you this thought? Perhaps a better way to word that is this. We get our perspective of ourselves from our first and early relationships. Let me say that again. We get our perspective of ourselves from our first and early relationships. I want to pause a moment. You just kind of think about that. Someone who grows up in an environment and their first and early relationships, the people around them that's telling them or that they're worthless or stupid or not valuing them or tearing them down emotionally, and they don't offer any emotional stability for them, that relationship affects that person. You take, on the other hand, a person that their first and early relationships, they're loved and they're cherished and they're valued. That affects that person. So our early life relationships, our first and early relationships affect us. How you perceive yourself has more to do with your first and early relationships than the potential that you have. And that's a sad thing to me, for someone to have a lot of potential but not believe that or not see that potential that's in themselves because their early relationships cause them to believe differently. And I use that word perspective, our perspective of ourselves, our perspective of life. I use that word perspective because it's described as the glass through which objects are viewed. So I ask you this question: what is the glass through which you view yourself? I'm suggesting that the glass you view yourself through is the glass given to you by your first and early relationships, by the people that are early on in your life, the people that you have relationships with early in your life. Now, some might say, well, you're just being psychological. Okay, well, let me show you that I'm being biblical. Okay, I want to read to you, if I may, in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5, Paul writes to Timothy, and I want you to notice what he says to Timothy. He says, when I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy grandmother Lois and thy mother Eunice, and I am persuaded that in thee also. So this is telling us that Timothy's perspective of life, his perspective of God, his perspective of faith, and his perspective of others, and his perspective of himself is in part the influence that was in his life from his first relationships in life, his relationship with his grandmother Lois and his mother Eunice. Those early relationships, in those relationships, he was given a foundation of faith in God. And out of that relationship, that faith in God came his perspective of life and his perspective of himself. And there's other examples I could give to you from the sacred scriptures, but time's not going to permit me to do that. So let's return to the heart of our lesson here. Past relationships. Some of our past relationships influence us in a good way. Some of our past relationships influence us in a bad way, sadly. Some past relationships improved us, but some did not. Some past relationships hurt us, but some past relationships helped us to heal. And some past relationships made us stronger and better. And in some past relationships, we made someone else stronger and better. I want you to think about that a moment. Someone is better because they've known you, because you influenced them through your relationship with them by valuing them and loving them and encouraging them and edifying them. Now, it's good to look back. It's good to look back at past relationships. It's good to cherish good memories, to remember the lessons that we've learned from others, from those relationships we've had with people. It's good to look back and to give thanks for the people that took the initiative to invest in us. It's good to visit the past, but do not live in the past. Live in the present. Enjoy the relationships you have right now. In our next lesson, we're going to talk about present relationships and how that past and present relationships are kind of connected, but the importance of our present relationships. So I want to invite you again. First, I got to say, I hope that there's something in this little lesson that's helpful to you, that you value past relationships, learn from them. And I'll say this, if there's someone from your past that you need to forgive, I encourage you to forgive them. Don't let them affect your present relationships. Don't let that person that hurt you affect the people in your present that love you and that you love. Forgive them. But I got to encourage, if you would, I just invite you again to please subscribe to our channel, like, share, and comment. Please visit our website, liferelationships.net, and remember, your most important relationship is your relationship with God through his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. So go out and make your relationships more meaningful so that your life will be more meaningful. Thank you for listening.